Welcome back into Sideline Stories podcast. This is episode 9 with Ryan Oliver and myself, Connor Finland. Thank you to all who have listened so far to our first episodes. We really are excited. We got 2 more for this season, and then we'll start season 2. Tonight, we are joined by Siena graduate of 2015, a MAC Defensive Player of the Year, one of 4 players in the MAC women's basketball history to eclipse 1,000 points, 500 rebounds, 300 steals, and 250 assists for her career. First in career steals for Siena and 5th all-time in career free throws. Tehresa Coles is joining us. Thank you for joining us, Tehresa.
Hey, thanks for having me.
First thing we like to get out of the way is, catch the Siena fans up. What you've been up to since you graduated from Siena?
Yeah, so ever since I graduated Siena, I have actually been with 2 companies. Right out of college, I utilized my accounting degree and I went to work for an accounting firm. And about 8 months in, I realized it wasn't exactly for me, and actually went over to ACO, which is where I'm at right now. I've been for going on 5 years and have been in a relationship management role over there, and of course got a job through my great connections at Siena. So happy to be here, and things have been going great.
That's awesome, and I think the Siena connections, are really life changing. I think everyone could talk about their experiences and the fans and all. Let's talk about COVID. Like everyone else, obviously a difficult time, but talk about kind of where you were when everything kind of shut down and how it ultimately alter your plans for your future.
Yeah, so 2020, what a year, right? COVID, I would say that early March is when my company decided to send everybody home. So we started working remotely, and that was full time. My husband now, he was already working from home for the most part. So it wasn't too big of a shift for him, but we were in a smaller 2-bedroom apartment. So that was quite an adjustment. And I say husband, our wedding was supposed to be April 25th in Cancun on the beach, like our dream wedding. And just out of the safety of our friends and family, we ended up canceling that and just doing a awesome Zoom wedding. And then we just kind of got officially married, and we used the funds from the wedding and got a house. So that has been like a silver lining for all of this, but I would say that it's definitely been a disruptive year, to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those for the storybooks. Obviously, I'm right there with you. Similar, I was supposed to get married in March. Used the money to buy a house. Just got in the house, so it's a Siena connections everywhere we go. You just don't know how much of the connection is. But obviously, being from Albany, going to Siena, did you grow up ever, going to Siena camps, following Siena? What was it about Siena that was a good place for you?
Yeah, so I did grow up following Siena. My basketball team growing up actually went to the Siena team camp. So I had come on campus and played a little bit. And I originally growing up was like, I am not going to school down the street. There's no way. Like, I'm going to go so far away. And then I came to the campus, and like you both probably know, get sucked into the whole Siena picture and how welcoming everyone is, and they're holding doors for you left and right, and it's just so comforting to be around such a great group of people. And I just felt like this is where I needed to be, and it was just a natural next step for me.
I know the Siena fans are definitely glad you chose Siena, because you obviously had a great career, but also in terms of helping the Siena community, you've also made it that by being a great person. Talk about growing up, and even before then, you played multiple sports: basketball, volleyball, soccer, and track. What really made you tie in on basketball and pursue that as for your collegiate level?
Yeah, so early years, I started out with soccer like most kids do, learning to walk, learning to run, endurance, all that stuff. And both of my parents actually were big fans of basketball, had played, and my sister before me, Jessica, who actually ended up going to St. Peter's in the MAC, she was playing basketball, so kind of followed in her footsteps of getting into the game and played on some co-ed leagues, and then started doing AAU, which of course sucks you right in. And as a kid growing up, you get to be with your friends on the weekends, hotels, all that stuff was just like so enjoyable. And then starting to look at the prospects for the future through basketball and the opportunity to maybe get a scholarship, and leading to all the connections that you can make. Once I started getting into my early years of high school and having those recruiting conversations and going to college showcases and things along those lines, was when it really sunk in for me that this is something that I wanted to take seriously. So while I was doing volleyball and track and soccer, I knew what my priority really was. And I actually only did volleyball for the beginning of my high school career, ended up quitting that so I could focus on getting ready for basketball season. Track was to keep me in shape for basketball season. Soccer, abandoned that for basketball as well. So kind of just knew where my true love lied and knew that basketball was going to be ultimately what I went with.
And I think you picked the right sport. To be honest, you had a great career at Siena. My question is, did you ever feel pressure being from Albany, going to a hometown school, having your family and friends at every single home game? Was there ever any added pressure?
Yeah, 100%. There was definitely some added pressure there. I mean, knowing that your friends from growing up and your parents' friends would be coming to games, and just like that pressure to not want to disappoint your community and your friends and family or make your parents look bad, even though obviously they'll love me regardless. um, it's a lot. And I would say it was both good and bad for me, because I'm one of those people who kind of thrives when it comes to trying to just build the team and do everything to make everyone look good and work together. And that was something that Siena really hones in on. So I would say that was a big part of why I was able to be successful, and having my parents down the street was super helpful as well. My dad, when he wasn't almost getting kicked out of high school games, he was always a good motivator for me. And so having him there on the sidelines with my mom as my biggest fan was pretty tremendous through those 4 years.
Nah, that's definitely awesome. I always joked with you in college and called you hometown hero, but I think it's truly meant for sure. Talk about the one-on-one battles with your sister. Kind of like, how much you said she was a big influence in terms of playing basketball. Did you guys get after in the backyard? Was she pushing you? Did she kind of try to lure you to St. Peter's? Talk about that relationship.
Yeah, so my sister and I, we always played for the same programs growing up. I was following 4 years behind her, so she'd always leave as I came in, and we never were really there at the same time. But it was a motivation for me because I was able to see the success that she found and see the skills that she picked up and the things that she was doing to get to that next level, and use them to kind of give me the edge that I developed for myself. She went to St. Peter's, and she's 6'1", I'm 5'9", so we're in different positions. So not direct competition. I would say maybe growing up we played one-on-one like once or twice. It really wasn't a big thing for us, which I know that's so odd. I feel like most people who are siblings and playing the same sport go at it a lot more. It was more of building each other up, I guess, than competitive, which is a little bit uncommon.
Yeah, back and forth. It's always good to have a sibling around the same age, and obviously also the same interests is very important. But being first in career in steals, being a defensive player of the year in the MAC, where did that defensive principle come? Was that something that you began early on? Was that you were the lockdown defender? Did it come later in the high school career, into college? Because I asked this to a lot of people, because a lot of people say they're good defensive players, but if the stats aren't there, if you're not guarding the best player, you can say whatever you want. But a lot of people say it's to get on the court, and maybe their offense took a little bit longer to learn than the defense. But what about defense is important to you?
Yeah, so defense, I feel like it's really getting down to the fundamentals. There's a lot of the offensive game that's fundamentals as well, but I feel like when you're on defense, it's about grit and it's about kind of outlasting. And so you learn growing up about staying low and quick feet and using your hands strategically, reading the hips of your opponent, things along those lines. And all those things were something that I feel like with my personal skill set and the athleticism that I had, I just was able to excel at more than the offensive end, because I was not a shooter. I was fast, but that's really all I had going for me on the offensive end for many, many years. And growing up, my mom always pushed me to just kind of always want to be one step ahead of everyone else on the court, to have that edge. And defense was where I was able to find that for myself.
I love it. I think that showed for sure. Talk about how in college, like myself, you had a coaching change. Talk about kind of that experience and what adjustments you had to make. It seems like you made the great adjustments because your career obviously stands out, but just talk about that initial shock when you heard the news and that change.
Yeah. So going into Siena, I knew Coach Castelli and the staff as the staff I was going to be around for my 4 years. That was what I thought about. You don't think about coaching changes at that point very often. And I really had a great connection with the staff and the coaches, and they were definitely a big part of why I came to Siena. And when we got to the end of that first season and heard the news that the staff was no longer going to be there, it was a shock. It was scary. You hear rumblings of like, oh, are people going to transfer? Or who's going to stick around? Are any of the coaches staying? Is everybody gone? There's just a lot of uncertainty. And one of the things that really stuck with me is that I loved Siena for more than just basketball. It's for education, for being close to my family now, because that's something I had grown accustomed to over that year. And just the people I had with me. And as a team, we stood strong and we were optimistic about what the future years could bring. And when Coach Jackson, the staff came in, it was definitely an adjustment because the style of coaching was different. The style of play that they wanted from us was a little bit different. And I would say that sophomore year was a lot of learning, a lot of growing. It was rough. It was taxing, both mentally, physically, pretty much everything you can think of. But like you mentioned, Ryan, it all started coming together more so over the junior, senior years, and we were able to find success, especially that senior year.
We've all three of us have had, some of us coaching changes, some coaches left, for bigger and better things, which is also awesome for anyone. But as you talked about, what other than like the, playing styles, what was the biggest personal adjustment, from one coaching staff to the other?
Yeah, so I would say that biggest personal adjustment would just be, I am one of those players who is very coachable. I listen to what my coach says and I was like, okay, yes, coach, I'm going to do it. This is what's best for the team. You got it. Like, that's me as a player. And so I was really bought in to everything that Coach Castelli had taught us over freshman year. And when Coach Jackson, the staff came in, it was completely different set. And it's like wrapping your mind around it and like really grasping it. And that doesn't happen overnight. And I would say it probably took most of that season for that to really happen. And for me, it's just, I guess, not getting it, like not clicking 100% from day one. And there's having that friction of like, okay, well, I thought you meant this. And like, okay, this is a misstep. Okay, now we got a 6 a.m. Like things along those lines, and just like trying to keep up with the fact that, okay, things are different. You got to adjust. This is what they tell you is going to happen in college, and it's happening. So you got to deal with it. And we did.
I was going to say it definitely it all worked out, which is tremendous. Let's fast forward a little. Let's talk about you at the end of your senior year were named the Siena College Female Student Athlete of the Year. With obviously, it's hard to say was that a goal of yours, but just talk about when you found out you were going to receive that honor, just what it meant to you, and just how it pretty much summed up your 4-year career there.
Yeah, that meant a lot. That announcement definitely was something, it surprised me. I mean, I know that there's so many great female athletes at Siena across all the sports, and for me to be named out of everybody who had such successful seasons and found so much success during their careers, it felt pretty special. I would say that it, to me, felt like, okay, you did your part, you contributed, and people saw that and they felt that, and you had an impact on your community and your school. So that's one of the definitely most impressive things I feel like for myself, is just because I feel like it meant that I had that impact, and all the hard work over the 4 years, the ups, the downs, all that, it paid off. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of good accolades for you, obviously, on the court and in the classroom. You graduated with your degree in 3 years, which
impressive.
Yeah, very, very impressive. As you talked about, Ryan just asked, is it a goal to be student athlete of the year or female athlete? Was that a goal to graduate in 3 years? Is it something you went into freshman year like, maybe I can get this done quicker and then get a, graduate degree? What all went into that?
Yeah. So one thing about me is I have been a pretty calculated person for most of my life. I tend to try to think a couple steps ahead if I can, and think about what opportunities could be presented. And when I found out that Siena's sole master's program at the time was accounting, and I was deciding on a major, it's like, okay, well, accounting, it's a good outlook, could be a promising career, all these things. It could lead into all these different paths and all of that. So from probably the end of my freshman year, I was pretty locked in on the fact that that's what I wanted to do. It was either a double major from day one or do that 3-year degree and get that master's in the 4th year. And at that time, it wasn't really a structure for it. I just was like, I'm going to do it. I mean, we take summer classes, so why not get the extra classes in and get a master's out of it as well?
That's the real question I want to know, because I came in with that same mindset. I was 5 classes short of finishing in 3 years.
Yep.
So where did I go wrong? How many classes did you take in the summer, and were you at every session because you were down the street? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's another thing that helps. It's like when you have your family down the street, when you get like breaks and are talking about summer schedules, you're not worried about like having time to go home or having time to see your friends and family. It's like sleep at my parents' house Tuesday through Thursday. You know what I mean? Like it's not that bad. My house was literally 2 miles from the campus. So I could go home pretty much whenever I wanted. And that wasn't really a big factor for me. So I didn't feel like I was away from home anymore by taking more classes. So I just loaded up my schedule whenever I could.
That's where I messed up. I was trying to be in LA any break I could.
Yeah.
I was on the first flight out.
Did it ever become tough to balance, all the schoolwork and, what's going on in the basketball court?
Oh yeah. Like I was still like a regular student. Like if you even taking basketball out of it, I cried in office hours. Like who didn't, right? There's a lot of times where it was really stressful and it was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this project done? You miss the office hours because you've got practice or you're on the road. The group projects that are getting done, it's like, sorry guys, I couldn't be there to meet with you for all this. And like Google Docs can only go but so far. And so it was definitely challenging. I would not say it was easy by any means. But it definitely taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about keeping my schedule organized and prioritization. And that's really what got me through.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear that. Let's talk about kind of the playing experience a little bit more. You obviously on the women's team, you all got the chance to play at the TU multiple times and also at the ARC. Talk about, was there adjustment that went into that? Did you get, a little bit more hype to play at the TU? Like, just talk about that whole experience.
So honestly, I loved playing on campus. Like I love playing in the ARC. And when we had to play at the Times Union Center, well, it's a great opportunity because it's such a big arena. It's not necessarily like we're pulling the same kind of crowd that you guys pulled. So if anything, it's just more open space, the depth perception and the glass backboard, like there's a lot more distance back there. So it's like more adjustments that you have to make. And I feel like the positives, at least for me, weren't as big of playing down there, even though it's cool and everyone gets excited about the doubleheader games down there. And it's great when we got to stick around and watch you guys play. I just loved playing in the ARC. It just felt like home. So was a big fan of playing there.
Did you practice much at the TU, or was it strictly just at the ARC?
Honestly, sometimes before the doubleheaders or when we play down there, we get a practice there, but that was really it. It was few and far between.
And I wish we played more at the ARC. I always loved, before, obviously we're all before the practice facility. So, but I used to love practicing the ARC. The rims were shooters rims,
Lovely. They were so lovely.
Everything was confined and things like that. But what was the biggest transition for you going from playing high school basketball to college?
The size of everyone and how strong they are. Like that was overwhelming. I was like, thank goodness for DT, because if it wasn't for Dan Taylor, I would not ever be able to stay on my own 2 feet on the court. Honestly, everyone was so much bigger, so much stronger, so much faster. And I mentioned, I think I'm pretty fast. Like in high school, it's like, oh my gosh, she's so fast. And then you get to college and it's like, can you keep up? Like it's hard. It's so hard. So that was the biggest adjustment for me, is just the athleticism.
Talking about DT, and obviously we had to mention Hammer as well. 2 staples during our time at Siena, and 2 staples in Siena history when it comes to athletics. Talk about your relationship with each of them and how they helped you grow and get to meet all your goals that you were able to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. So during my time at Siena in the training room, like Hammer was just so crucial. Like I was fortunately not a player who had many injuries. I'm still gonna knock on wood. I don't care how far out I am. And a lot of my time that was spent in there was just kind of just preventative stuff, icing, heat pack, cold ice bath after practice or something along those lines. But it was just kind of like a safe haven or a safe haven. And you develop relationships in there, like at Hammer, Brian during my time, Scott was there when I first got to Siena. And I don't know, it's just a place where you can go on campus that is like for the athletes. And it's like a home where you can just be there. You're comfortable. You know that you can have open, honest conversations, anything that's on your mind, whether it's something ailing you or something that you want to talk about with your sport or just life. Like that was just like the place to go. I would say that was like the hangout almost for people who were fortunate enough to not actually be injured. And then Dan, I mean, oh my goodness, literally built me, I feel like, from the ground up when it comes to being an athlete at Siena. I mean, just the regimens for getting in there and working out. And that was another advantage about being from the hometown, because over the summer, I was getting in there with Dan. I remember there was one summer, I swear I put on like 10, 15 pounds of muscle because we were just lifting all the time. And like he just knows exactly what everybody needs and specializes it for every single player. And if you have an injury or something's just a little bit off, the adjustments, I mean, the wealth of knowledge is endless. And I would just say that whole team they were amazing, above and beyond always.
Yeah, they do way more than they're supposed to, and everyone's very thankful. So one thing about Siena, with a small school, the president, all the athletic trainers, all your professors, and they all go above and beyond, not only for the regular students, but also for the student athletes, which is important. If you follow Tehresa on social media, like we all do, you can see that you'd spend a lot of time with your former teammates. Talk a little bit about that sisterhood that it is, meeting people from all different areas, the country, the states, and talking about the connections you still have with them.
Oh yeah. I mean, literally like my sisters, like you mentioned, like I still talk to my Siena family on a daily basis. Like the people and the connections from those 4 years are something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Like specifically from my from my senior year, I would say that those connections got even tighter. I think it's one of those things where you realize your time is kind of coming to an end at Siena, and like you're about to go out back to your home state or wherever life might take you next. And never know when you're going to physically see somebody again. And so like to have those relationships stick around through Snapchat, Instagram, FaceTime, just texting, it's pretty spectacular. I mean, Ida Crow's on the other side of the world and we talk to her on a daily basis. Like, I think that's just pretty amazing.
Technology at its finest.
Oh yeah.
That's, it's like Connor said, we always see the IG stories and they're all together at the pool hanging out.
Jumping in pools.
Yeah, jumping in pools. That's funny. You and Coach Jack's relationship, you all are really close. Obviously, even now, you're still with the Siena women's team. You're the color analyst for the squad. Talk about you and Ali Jack's relationship and how it's grown from player coach to now, I would definitely say friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Coach Jackson and our relationship evolved over the 3 years that I was able to play under her at Siena. And I think there was just a level of trust that was established with me as her player and her as my coach, that we had the team's best interest at heart and we were going to do what it takes to be successful. And then graduating Siena and still having the opportunity to be so close and to stop in and see games and chat with Coach Jacks or even grab a drink. It's great to still be able to have that connection, and just so happy for her for all the successes and great things that have happened to her since we parted our ways at Siena, and to still be able to be involved and go to her wedding and things along those lines. It's pretty amazing. So I'm very grateful for the relationship that we have this day.
Yeah, as Ryan touched on, you're now the color analyst for the Siena women's basketball games, which is a great thing to do. What's the biggest transition from going from playing to the broadcasting side?
Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest things for me was to not be biased. It's so easy to want to just cheer Siena on in every play and only talk about the great things Siena's doing, the bad things the other team's doing. And Connor, I know you're familiar with this as well. It's so hard to kind of keep that hat on and say, okay, don't be biased, call the game. Like this is a job here. You're not just talking about your friends and how great they are. So that was one of the biggest adjustments. But I would say it was also a lot of learning that I did of seeing things from the sideline, because it's not often you get to do that. I mean, I played since I was a child and I was always on the court, and coaching was never really something that I saw myself getting into. So being on the sideline in this capacity has been very eye-opening, and it's been fun. I really enjoy it.
So who started first? Who was the color analyst first between you two?
Tehresa, I believe, was.
Teresa was? Okay.
Yeah, I did it the year after I graduated, I think. So 2016, I think, is when I started.
Okay.
Yeah, because you used to do it with Chris Watson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then.
Yep. So yeah, she did it a couple years before me, but
Okay.
yeah, she's every time I see her on TV, I know we're in for a good game. She's going to talk really well about the game, and you know, I've really enjoyed it, and I know you're talking about being biased, because there's times when I have to bite my lip if there's a play that you always want Siena to win. I'm not going to lie. With AJ, that's his job, so he's very biased. But me, I'm just like, you want to cheer them on or say, and a lot of times I just have to unplug my mic because I'm like, it's what it is. But what would you say the most difficult part of calling a game is? Is there anything that you're like, it's hard for me to do, or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say that if the score gap is very large, that's really difficult, especially being in the color seat, because there's just not much color you can add when there's a blowout happening, whether it's in Siena's favor or against them. That is really hard. And the first time that I experienced that, I just was like, what do I say? Like, I want to add something, like, like I'm very uncomfortable with silence. And so like space, I want to fill it. But like in those circumstances, I'm like, I'm not sure how to fill this space. So that was difficult. And I've gotten better at it over the years. But when I started out, that was definitely one of the biggest pain points for me.
I could not imagine being in that seat during a blowout. I need a bathroom break. But talk about, you've been doing this since 2016. Do you go back and watch and learn? Are you taking notes on how you can improve? Are you watching other, collegiate games or NBA games to learn from others? Or is there someone that, like, if they're on, you have to watch? Talk about how you've been learning from your experience.
Yeah, so I definitely like to go back and watch the games just to see how I did. It's cringeworthy sometimes, because like going through the live broadcast, I know where I have hiccups, and I know where there's points where I'm like, oh, why did you say that? Or why didn't you say something? And so watching it back over, as painful as it is, it's good to learn about those things. And I actually didn't used to watch live basketball on TV very often. Like I was strictly a player. Like I would play basketball and that was it. You didn't catch me watching the NBA, college, anything like that. But then after graduating and starting to get into color commentating, I definitely do it a lot more. And not even just with basketball, like even other sports, I try to like have an ear for the comments being made, the times that people jump in and things along those lines. So that's really what I've been doing to continue to try and hone in on that skill set.
That's the only way you can learn is by watching it. It's hard for me too, because AJ would tell me some pointers and stuff, but unless you actually take it to yourself, because anyone can tell you anything, but if you want to make changes, you got to be like, you know what, I'll listen and see where I can affect it or change it. But looking at your Siena bio, I don't know what year it was, but I pulled something up and I found that your favorite team is the Miami Heat. So obviously with the Miami Heat being in the finals, how you've been watching their run in these playoffs into the finals?
Yeah. So I don't know what year either, but I have a feeling that it was because I have a favorite player. I'm one of those. I'm a big LeBron fan. And so I was a big fan of the Big Three when he was with the Heat.
Okay.
So that was probably around the time when I completed that questionnaire. And I am now a Lakers fan. I know everyone hates it when that happens. But I am now a Lakers fan, and mainly just for LeBron, honestly. I like the whole Mamba mentality thing and what they've been doing this year in his honor, because of that awful loss that we had earlier this year of Kobe. It's great to see them find success as well. But I have been cheering for the Lakers through this one.
All right, I take back your favorite team then. I was a little off.
Shaking my head. That is terrible. That is terrible. So we all know Siena is a very special place. Obviously, you know, from growing up in the area and having a lot of media coverage. During your high school career, you were named to a couple of news channel all-star teams, a couple of newspaper all-star teams. Talk about the media and how they've shown love for you during your high school and college career, and how, you know, most places don't get the attention like a Siena, or, you know, the schools the size of Siena would typically get. Just talk about that experience with the media attention and how you are really a figure in the 518.
Yeah, so the media has been so amazing. Honestly, what's another cool thing about being local through college is the same people who are at my high school games are the same people who are coming to the college games. And that's pretty cool that they've seen me evolve and I've seen them throughout all of these years as well. And some of them are changing roles or making adjustments to where they're at. And it's pretty fascinating to witness. But I would say that having the exposure in high school to be able to do like the sideline after game interviews and things along those lines, or one of the things I did was the new Channel 13, they had the all-star list, and so they'll bring you into the studio and you do an interview there, and that was like one of the first interviews that I ever did that it was like that official. So going to Siena and the fact that they have like the media training, and so now like you get like talking points and or tips and pointers on like how to say certain things, what you might want to stay away from, and just like tips in that space. I mean, I guess working with the same media throughout, hopefully they feel like I got better over the years. I would cringe if they don't think so, but we'll see. Hopefully someone like comments on this and let you know.
No, I do see you're really good at, obviously this is Zoom, it's too, you know, but you can see your presence. Where did you learn, you know, I know it's all about being interviewed, it's the only way you're going to learn, but is there any tips that you learned at Siena or, you know, since leaving Siena that's helped you, you know, on media or Zoom or, you know, the radio or TV?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think I've gotten better at from a lot of lessons learned is eye contact, pace when talking, repeating the question to buy yourself maybe a little bit more time if you're not exactly sure how to answer. That's one that I use all the time now. So those are a couple things that I really try to always implement, and for things like this, for work, for pretty much every aspect of my life, I feel like they are just so helpful. Especially if you're somebody who maybe feels a little bit awkward in like social settings and is a little bit uncomfortable with answering questions, just to kind of take a deep breath, just compose yourself and be able to kind of go at your own pace. And I think that really helps, and trying not to overcomplicate things or try to sound smarter or anything like that, just be natural. Those are things that have all been pointed out to me over the years that I still to this day find very helpful.
Ladies and gentlemen, media training 101 with T. You'll be handing out business cards after the episode.
Yeah. Don't pull up my Facebook.
T. Coles, looking back at your time at Siena, name one thing off the court and one thing on the court that always brings a smile to your face, one memory that's going to last forever.
Okay. One thing off the court, one thing on the court. I would say that one thing on the court is kind of, so broad, my senior year when we went through the WBI. I know you guys are familiar with the CBI. When we went through the WBI, that experience, because we were the Magnificent Seven. There was only 7 of us that were healthy to play. We were closer than we've ever been, as from a chemistry standpoint, and just looking after each other. And that whole entire experience of flying around, playing those games, and just having each other's back was pretty spectacular. But then specifically within that, we were playing Xavier, and Ida Crow invented this move that we like to call the sit down, because for some reason she was like inbound. So she was bringing the ball up the court. She was in the back court, and for some reason she like sat down. Like she literally ended up just like sitting. No one like pushed her or touched her or anything, but then she was still able to like outlet the ball, like pass the ball, and we kept it. But that is like one thing that makes me laugh every single time I think of that tournament or think of Ida and basketball, because only Ida would have stories like that. So that's one thing on court that will always stay with me. And then off court, I mean, it just has to be What would the off-court thing be? I would say that my senior week was like really cool because it's after basketball season has ended, obviously. And now at this point, you're kind of just saying bye to your friends and like you get to go do the activities, go to Saratoga, go to Lake George, like all that stuff. And it was just really fun. And was a good way for everyone to just kind of have that closure, no pressure of like, oh, we got practice tomorrow or there's homework assignments due. You just get to be a college kid and hang out with your friends. And that was pretty awesome.
I think we can all agree senior week is probably one of the best weeks ever invented.
I think so.
Especially when you're a senior.
I think so.
But one of the most unique things about you, personally, I think, which is pretty cool in my eyes, is all the accolades you have accomplished, all the wins you've been a part of. What does it mean to be on the board of trustees at Siena? Like that you can say a lot of things about people, but that's an accolade that's no one's ever going to touch. And also not only is it what does it mean to be a part of it, but how did it come to be?
Yeah, so it was recent, just this year in 2020. So earlier this year started discussions of the fact that I got recommended to be a young member of the board of trustees. And when I say young, not just because like I'm defining myself as young, but this is like an actual position within the board. So they would bring somebody in with different perspective to come to discussions with the thoughts that are tied closer to the students that are currently at the school, so that you can kind of just think about things from a different angle, because a lot of people on the board have been there for many years and have a lot of experience on that side, and maybe it's been a while since they've been on campus. And so just to bring that perspective to the board has been a wonderful thing. And obviously there's so much going on right now in the world, especially with racial justice and COVID-19. And so to be a part of those important conversations has been pretty spectacular, because obviously I feel it in my day-to-day life, you see it with your friends and your family, but to listen in to how an institution is making an effort to just make a change in the world and for their community and just be on the right side of history has been nothing short of amazing.
Hats off to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can even follow up with a question after that.
Thanks, guys.
Hometown hero back at it again. And to piggyback off that, another huge accomplishment you had was, and obviously unfortunately you didn't get it, but you were a MAC nominee for NCAA Woman of the Year in 2015. Obviously the whole thing, this whole pod obviously says a lot about you as a person, and not only as an athlete, but as a person. But just talk about when you received the news for that and what that meant for you and your family.
Yeah, so that came soon after I found out about the whole like female athlete of the year at Siena at the end of my senior year. And it was kind of riding on the same high about just like being so honored, because you just think about all the women you're in company with, and I'm just like, wow, me, like Tehresa Coles, are you sure you met me? But yeah, it was pretty cool because, yeah, like you mentioned, Ryan, like, no, I didn't get the actual accolade, but like the fact that I could even be in those conversations, it just shows that I must have done something right. And it only happens by being built up and supported by everyone who I encountered through my time at Siena. And so I don't know, it was just a nice little way to kind of go out with a bang.
And then to piggyback on that, being part of in 2019, being the MAC basketball honor roll inductee, I could get lost at all the accolades. your list is just like, but it's all very well deserved. But talk a little bit about being a part of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah, that was really special too. I mean, I got the announcement. It was like an email that like was sent to me, and they were like, "Hey, like we're gonna honor you. Like, let us know if you can come." I was like, Yeah, I will 100% be there. Thank you so much. I am so honored. Like, you guys are amazing. You think I'm amazing. That's cool. So I was over the moon with that one. My mom and dad just so proud, and to make them proud also feels really good. And to have the opportunity to go to the Basketball Hall of Fame and like see my name on this plate in the Mac Experience exhibit is just like shocking almost. I mean, and to be surrounded by a whole class of people who are also honored. I mean, like the chair of the board of trustees was honored with me. You know what I mean? So like that is so cool to just be in such great company and to be able to celebrate and feel honored. They had us walk down a red carpet. Coach Jax came. So it was just really, really fun.
So two things, Ticos. How many times since have you been back to the Hall of Fame?
I have not been back since. I mean, so this was
You're a better
last year.
person. You're a better person than me. I would have been back every month, like just in case I forgot. Yeah, walking by like, does that person look familiar? That's okay. That's it.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I'd be giving tours. This is me right here.
Well, half the time since then, we've all been in lockdown. So
tip me at the door. Tip me at the door.
There you
go.
We're gonna see Tico is doing virtual tours of the Hall of Fame.
Special guest.
Facts. And second thing, when or where can I start the campaign to get the jersey retired in ARC?
You're so sweet.
I'll email John Dargenio. We'll get it going.
Oh my goodness, you're so funny. Yeah, the number 25 will live on for many, many players. I hope they all enjoy it. Wear it well.
Wear with pride. Just you won't get all the accolades you got, but you can still wear it. You'll loan it for a little bit.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. We'll move on to the quick hitters. What would you say the best place to eat in the capital region is?
Best place to eat in the capital region. So like favorite food or like experience being there?
Where you can go more than one. It's no problem.
Okay. So I love DeFazio's Pizzeria in Troy.
Shout out. Okay, I like it.
Shout out.
DeFazio's. And then for experience, I am, call me corny if you want, but I love hibachi and literally it just the Kodo experience.
Oh, yes.
Every time.
I go there my birthday every year. It's just, well, didn't go this year, but the experience is just, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's so fun.
You can't go wrong with that at all. I haven't been there, but next time I'm in Albany, I'm definitely have to check that out.
You have to.
What would you say, what would you say is your favorite city in the 518? Like Albany, Troy? Troy?
Yep.
And why 100%. Is that?
So I lived in Troy for the past 4 years. Bought my first house in Troy. Literally just had so many great memories there. I mean, while I was living in Troy, like my husband moved to New York to live with me. Like we got our first cat. Like we got married in our apartment in Troy. So many great memories at the beer garden in Troy. Got to go for the birthday boot all the time. The farmer's market, absolutely amazing, top notch, like best in the whole entire country. I think they actually won an award. And then just the ability to like walk around to all the bars, Troy Kitchen, like so many great things happening in Troy.
Couldn't agree with you more. I'm a big Troy fan also. What's the best arena you've ever played in?
The best arena that I've ever played in.
Or been to. You don't have to have played in it.
That's tough. You know what? I'll give the biased answer. And even though I said I enjoy playing in the Arc more, does the Arc count as an arena?
Sure. Gym, arena. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, cool. Then I'm going to claim home court there.
I love it.
There we go. The most reps up in that building for sure.
Yep.
Who would you say is the best player you ever played against, whether we've heard of them or not?
The best player I have ever played against. So I'll bring it up through my Siena days, and I'll say D'Amica Martinez from Iona College. Shout out, you were amazing. Definitely gave me a run for my money. One of my favorite moments my senior year was when we beat Iona in the tournament, and when I was able to get the Defensive Player of the Year award. One of the biggest, I would say, one of the biggest games for me that season defensively was that game against Iona. And I mean, just shout out to great competition. I mean, the MAC gives you so many challenging opponents, but she's one that definitely stood out.
Wow, I like it. Keeping the MAC going with the gym, the favorite gym, and best player you've ever played against.
I got a bias problem.
We need to upgrade the MAC, get them on more of a higher showcase here. What's the most points you've ever scored in a game?
Ooh. See, I'm not like a stats person. I don't remember all of my stats like that. I genuinely do not know. I mean, maybe like 30. More defense than offense over here.
I'm a fan of that.
There we go, for sure. So, day before the game, day of the game, are there any pregame rituals or superstitions that you must do in order to play well?
So there's not necessarily a ritual that I did every single game. I was one of those players. I'll throw my Beats headphones on and on the bus to the game to kind of get my mind in the right place. If I'm really nervous, I have been known to crochet on the bus. So I've definitely made my fair share of hats and scarves on the way to and from games. So that's something, I guess, fun fact about me.
Who would you say one player you modeled your game after was?
Big shoes to fill. Not going to say that I totally got there, but one of the reasons they're my favorite player is because I really love LeBron's style of play. And so I would say that the hustle in me, a little bit of that definitely came from watching LeBron.
And King James is still doing it at year 17 at a high level.
I don't know how.
Which is very, very impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up in the Albany area, you're familiar with Siena, especially Siena women's basketball. Is there one former Siena Saint that you did not play with that you wish you would have?
I wish I played with Serena. I mean, we talked about it earlier, and I've heard great things about her game. And I mean, even her coming to play pickup with us my freshman year, I felt like it would have been pretty cool to be able to get on the court with her.
Who would you say you think is the best female to put the Siena jersey on is?
Best female to ever.
You can say yourself. We've had someone say themselves before.
I won't give myself that much credit by any means. Best player to put on the Siena jersey. Oh, guys, I don't know. That's a hard one. Oh, I don't know if I can give you an answer for that. Does that make me awful?
No, you don't have to.
Not at all.
All right.
Just there's too many, right? Too many that are on the cusp.
Honestly, so many that come to mind. Yeah. So okay. I can't pinpoint one.
That's definitely understandable. That's definitely.
So we'll go with T. Coles. That's our answer.
Your answer, not mine.
What is one piece of advice you would give to anyone playing at Siena right now?
I would say to stay hungry. Regardless of what happens, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. You might go through a stretch of losses. I've been there. You got to grind it out. You got to go to practice and you got to work hard every single day. Coach is going to get on you. You're going to have times and you're like, forget this. I'm going back to my locker room. It's not even that serious. Or I'm going home. Like, can't, it's worth it. Trust me, it'll pay off. Just put in the time.
Hey, well, very well said. So obviously this is our 9th episode. Anyone, drop a name of someone you'd like for us to interview. It could be anyone, Siena related, no matter who it is.
Yeah, one interview I'd love to see actually is Lily Grenzy. And I know she's got a lot going on since her Siena days. And I know that she had a pretty spectacular time at Siena as well. So I'd love to see that one. Well,
we'll put her on the list. We'll try to get her. We try to get everyone. We can. It's harder than you think, to be honest. But we got definitely appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. I don't know if we can hopefully get you an accolade for this podcast. We'll try to get you something like best podcast.
Add it to the list.
Something like that. But no, definitely appreciate it. And if all the Siena fans can tune in, hopefully to see Tehresa this year working the women's games with COVID. I'm not sure what's going to go on yet, but definitely can tune in there. But definitely appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe on wherever you listen to podcasts and on our YouTube official page for up-to-date information on the podcast. Thank you very much.
Thanks, T. Coles.
Thanks.